Welcome to the Sheridan Report, brought to you by MYBookie.Ag. Make sure you go to thegruellytruth.net, click on the MYBookie.Ag banner top of the page to get a 50% bonus up to $1,000. So if you put $2,000 in, you'll get another $1,000 to play with. I am your co-host for the Sheridan Report, Mike Goodpasser. Right now, I'd like to welcome to the show from the Sheridan Report, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Mike, I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning? And I'm in San Jose, still at the hotel, but I'm going to be leaving here when we get off air and heading over to the arena. I'm going to watch a doubleheader this morning in basketball. In the NCAAs, I'll first get the Irvine game with K-State, and then I'll stay and watch a game that we're going to be part of, gambling-wise at least, betting-wise. That's the Oregon-Wisconsin games. I'm looking forward to both those games.
All right, so let's go ahead and start off where we usually start off, Bobby. Take me to the NBA. Tell me what's the best plays for today are.
Great. Well, there's two plays in the NBA today, and one of them is a free play that is already on the site, and it might be on Twitter already. I don't remember if I posted that or not on Twitter, but it's on the site as it always is the night before when I put my report out, and that is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets are -6 over the Spurs. I just pulled up these new lines just as we got on air. Currently -6 over the Spurs, and I like the Rockets. So let's talk about a top play that I've added. It's not on the report because the line didn't come out till this morning, but I've added it, and I've emailed people and texted people, and I'm going to put it on Twitter, and I'm announcing it now. I like the Miami Heat tonight. The Heat, if you followed us and you've been listening, are a team that we are endorsing right now, and to finish this up strong and maybe give the Bucks a run in that first round series. You know, if they played right now, the Heat would play the Bucks. That would be 1 versus 8, and the Heat, if you've listened, are playing very well on the road. They're a better road team than they are a home team, and that paid off for us the other night. We had a straight-up victory at San Antonio. San Antonio hadn't lost at home in damn near a month, and so the Miami went down there and beat them soundly, and now they're going to the Bucks. And you know, this is interesting because we had the Heat in the Bucks game. We said watch this game very closely when Milwaukee went to Miami, and this was only 10 or 12 days ago, maybe 10 days ago. Mike, you'll remember this. And the Bucks went to Miami, and I was a little confused on what to do with that game because I wasn't sure how the Bucks were going to approach that game, knowing this was going to be their first-round opponent. Teams like to send messages, and the Bucks, to me, had two ways they could play that. They could sit Giannis and use it as a non-game, you know, and where they don't put their best foot forward and don't show Miami their best foot until the playoffs. There's no reason to. Or they could play him and go for the win. Well, they played him, and no minutes restrictions. If you remember, this is around the time, well, before that, they started putting some minutes restrictions on him, and they played him. And Miami had the lead at half at home by, I want to say, 15. And I remember you and I talked off there, and I said, wow, I missed that because I really wanted to bet the Heat in that game. My instincts were telling me that, but I was worried about how Milwaukee was going to approach the game. So they're down 15 at half, Milwaukee is, and I bet Milwaukee at the half because I told myself they're all in on this game. They played their guy. They played their team. They're going to show, you know, throw a message down right here. They're not going to go down the second half. They are the best team in the East, and they are going to more than likely represent the East in the finals. So let's not mix things up here. But Milwaukee buried them by 30 in the second half, and that was a winner just because you're paying attention. All right, well, here's a rematch. And I like how this favors the Heat tonight because Milwaukee already proved their point. Okay? They showed that, all right, usually teams will prove their point by going on the road. And now Milwaukee's at home, favored by 9. They're expected to win. I don't think you'll get the same focus from this team tonight as you will from Miami, who is playing better on the road anyway. And now they're going to go down and say, you know what, we blew a 15-point halftime lead to you guys at home. And you know what, we can play with you guys. And they're going to play with them tonight. So we're going to have a close game tonight. And I like the Heat +9 at Milwaukee.
All right, so will we take your 4 plays there? Should we parlay those?
You know, you're going to have four plays, meaning 2 college, which I'm going to talk about, and then 2 pros. Absolutely. I think basically there's certain ways you can play the report, play any selections that you have. You can play conservatively, straight bets. You can bet just the top plays. You could bet the same amounts. You could vary your amounts. This is up to you. But I always, myself personally, I got 4 plays. I will have a 14 parlay because if I go 4-0, I'm looking to crush.
Yeah.
And the 14 parlay is, going to pay 11, 12 to 1. Sometimes moneyline parlays will be more than that. And so the bottom line is that's how you really get paid on a day that you've earned it. When you go 4-0, you don't want to just win 100, 100, 100, 100. You want to have a 54-teamer that gets you 500, 600. That kind of stuff, whatever your value amounts are that you bet. So, yes, I think you can parlay it, but I always like to think that, if my straight plays are winning, then that more than covers the parlay. The parlay is kind of a bonus.
Yeah.
And that's where bankroll comes in, Mike, and we've talked about that. If you have just a small bankroll, it's hard to make money because you have to just kind of be perfect with that couple $100. And, if you've got a big bankroll, you can throw in the parlays and, having money means you can make money. So that's kind of how that is.
All right, Bobby. What do you got March Madness-wise?
March Madness-wise, I don't think you're going to be surprised, meaning you, the listeners, because we've already alluded to this. We are very high on the Pac-12 in terms of the value to the line. And let me explain what's going on in today's deal. All right, well, we've got 3 Pac-12 teams playing today, and I'm not on Washington whatsoever because they're the team that's playing the worst of the 3. They can win today, but I'm not on that game. The 2 games that I'm on are the 2 teams that have emerged from that conference, a conference that was ridiculed and rightfully so, a conference that underperformed, but changing landscapes. Okay, we have 2 teams emerging from that conference that are now capable of going onto the national scene and performing and performing well. Yet they're still going to be undervalued to the line because the perception is the Pac-12 is terrible. And that might be true. But I'm telling you right now, these 2 teams that we're going to give you today are not terrible. And that's Arizona State over Buffalo. Arizona State's getting 5. And that is Oregon over Wisconsin. Oregon's getting 2. And let me just talk about both, and I won't try not to be too long-winded. The Arizona State situation is this. Bobby Hurley's their coach, and we all know Bobby Hurley from Duke. And this is his, he passed a test last game. It was a play-in game we had them where they beat Chris Mullins and St. John's, and this was a rematch in terms of playing a Big East team in a play-in game, and they got that win. If you follow, you had that win. Well, now another interesting deal. They go to Tulsa, and they draw Buffalo. Well, Bobby Hurley hired Buffalo's coach when he was there. Bobby Hurley coached Buffalo in 2015 into the NCAAs. He parlayed that good job he did there to a Pac-12 job. Well, the guy they hired was the guy he brought in there. And I like how he's handled this. He's played up the situation. Yeah, this was my guy. He's a great coach. He's hard-nosed. That team will be ready to play us. His personality is a guy. He's a great coach, meaning we got to be ready. This is a 30-win team. Arizona State's completely knowing what they're getting into today. Now, Buffalo did 2 things that I don't like in terms of coaching. The coach said he didn't want to talk about the Hurley stuff at all. I don't know why he wouldn't, but he didn't want to talk about it. And he lamented the fact that they were a 6 seed. He said, we won 31 games, the most in the whole thing. Tied with Houston, I believe. And we're a 6 seed. Very disrespected. Da-da-da-da-da. I also don't like that. I like positive. Around my teams when I coached, I like positive. You know what? This guy hired me. Bobby Hurley's a great coach. We got to be ready to play. He'll have his team ready. I'd rather say that. I'd rather say, you know what? We're a 6 seed. We love the draw that we've got. We love where we got sent, and we're going to fire a big shot on Thursday. I like that. So this is a personal touch I'm adding into this game. Along the lines, also added in with the Pac-12 is undervalued to the line, and Arizona State +5. Now, let's jump forward to the next game. This is my top play of the day as well. They're both top plays. This is my number one game is Oregon today over Wisconsin. And let me give you a little backdrop. Wisconsin opened 3 when this game opened up. They were 3. Now this is going back. It opened up Sunday when the matchups were revealed. The line immediately went just boom, 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 boom to Oregon -1. You could have seen Oregon -1 at some sports books because that's the sharp money. Okay, this Oregon team is a different animal now. But they are a top 20 team without a doubt at this time right now. Well, then the public money says, "Oh, I can get Wisconsin at +1 against a crappy Pac-12 team," and they've bought the game back up to Wisconsin -2. So this is a classic matchup of the pros versus the Joes. The pros are on Oregon and the Joes are on Wisconsin. And sometimes the Joes win. Most of the time the pros do. I like Oregon +2. I think they'll win this game. I've never seen a team transform their identity as much as I have Oregon this year. 3-point, fast break, glitzy team, up and down, star-laden with Bowl, has turned into a gritty, defensive, tough team with an identity. Everyone is on board with this identity. And Dana Altman is probably the best coach that many people have never heard of in America.
Yeah, did a great job in Creighton a few years ago, too.
He sure did, Mike. And Oregon is going to play a team today, Wisconsin, who I've made a lot of money on this year. I respect their program as well. This is 2 teams that are going to battle it out. Wisconsin does not make their free throws. Watch for that to be a real bugaboo down the stretch in this game today. And I like Oregon a lot, and I'll personally be at that game. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, Bobby. Anything else, ATP-wise, or anything you want to talk about?
No, I think we'll let it go. There are some matchups today in the ATP we have. The one thing I'll mention is our buddy from Survive and Advance, Lucas Weiss. You know, I like him a lot, and he's a really good rider, and he's a good person, and I tweet with him sometimes, and he's from Canada, so I always like to. He's a big tennis fan too. So there's an 19-year-old kid named Auger, last name Auger Aliassime. First name is Felix, and he's a rising next-gen star. And I've got him today along with 2 others. But I wanted to just throw a shout-out to Felix, Canadian's young star, and Lucas Weiss. We've got him today on the Early Risers program. And looking forward to the opening of MLB next week, which will be on Thursday. And that's all, Mike. That's the TSR report for today.
All right, guys. As always, we will have On This Day after we hear a word from our sponsor, MyBookie. So we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Goodpasser from the Grueling Truth Sports Network, and I'm here with just one simple message. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making money. The Grueling Truth has recently partnered with MyBookie.Ag, an industry-leading sportsbook website, who reminds you that where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on, and that's why the Grueling Truth urges you to check out MyBookie.Ag. In addition to the usual thousands of odds, money lines, proposition bets, and futures offered on MyBookie.Ag daily, they also have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. So join now and MyBookie will give you up to a free $1,000 cash bonus on your first deposit. Just enter promo code TGT50. That's TGT50 to take advantage of this offer. You can also go to thegrillingtruth.net, click the banner at the top of the page for MyBookie.Ag, and also get the same benefit and the same $1,000 free cash bonus on your first deposit. So visit MyBookie.Ag, courtesy of The Grueling Truth, and enjoy winning today. MyBookie.Ag. You play, you win, you get paid.
All right, guys, I'm Mike Goodpaster, back with Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report, and we are to On This Day. Bobby?
Hey, Mike, we're on this day, and I love On This Day, and, this is how I fell in love with your show, Mike, was listening to you and on the Surviving Advance and, just talking sports, and you get to do that on this show, and I appreciate it. And on this day, we're going to go to 1967. Muhammad Ali KOs Zora Foley in 7 for the heavyweight boxing title. I've heard of this occurrence, but I don't know any of the backstory or anything, how it went down. Maybe you could lend a hand.
All right, so Zora Foley was a guy who had beaten such contenders as Eddie Machen, George Chuvalo, Oscar Bonavena, and the first time he beat Bonavena, he actually knocked Bonavena down, and 3 years later won a rematch. Split fights with Doug Jones. Doug Jones is a guy that a lot of people think beat Muhammad Ali. I think it was in 1963 before he fought Sonny Liston and pulled that great upset. I still think Ali won the fight. It was closer than people thought. I think people gave Jones a little bit more credit to what he deserved. He also fought draws with Karl Mildenberger, who would go on to fight Ali in Germany in 1966 or 67. I think it was right before he fought Foley. Of course, beat Eddie Machen again. And between 60 and 62, Foley was knocked out in a heavyweight title bid against Sonny Liston. He also was upset by Alejandro Lavarante, and I think that was in California at the old Olympic Auditorium. The interesting thing about Foley was, and there was a lot of interesting things about him, and I think that he's more interesting than Ali when we talk about this fight. I mean, Foley was a guy who was a member of the Chandler City Council, raised a family of 9 children, poor guy, with his wife. And before the fight, Ali joked that Foley was such a nice man that it posed a real problem because he couldn't possibly get mad at him like he did Floyd Patterson, which we talked about before, where he's, beating the hell out of Patterson and Terrell and basically carrying him and hurting him. And Foley was one of the first to call the controversial champion by his Muslim name instead of Cassius Clay. So Ali stated he respected Foley and that he was nervous before the match. And Foley was the last man that faced Ali before that 3-year sentence he had, or a 3-year suspension he had for not fighting in the war. But Zora Foley was a really good fighter. And the sad thing about this is Zora Foley was 34 years old. And he goes into this fight. Ring Magazine, which is what most people go by for legitimate rankings, which are hard to get in boxing, he was a 7-1 underdog. And when you watch the fight with Ali, it is obvious that he is a lot slower than Ali. He did, in the build-up to this fight, the 2 years previous, had beaten, he had a draw with Karl Mildenberger. He beat Gerhard Zeck, who was like 68-7 and was one of the better fighters in Germany, but he beat him. He beats Bonavena. He beats Bob Foster, the great light heavyweight champion, who never did fare well at the heavyweight division. He beat Henrik Clark, and I think the fight before Ali, he'd knocked out Floyd Joyner and won. So he was still a legitimate top 10 contender, but this was probably Muhammad Ali at the height of his career. And Ali at the height of his career was as good as anybody that ever lived, better than 99.9% of the fighters that ever lived. I would say him, Joe Louis at the heavyweight division are by far the 2 best that ever lived. And he beats Foley, stops him in the 7th round, and Foley gave him a little trouble the first couple rounds because Foley was technically a really good boxer. Ali even mentioned that after the fight. And Zora Foley, after the fight, said that Ali was the best fighter he ever fought, and that was including, he'd fought pretty much everybody in the 60s. The thing that's really interesting about this whole thing was Zora Foley died in 1972.
Oh.
And it's the way he died. And over the years, there's been all kinds of questions and theories about Foley's death. And I think it comes down to he was bumped off by the mob. They
Wow.
made the big thing here is, for some reason, the autopsy on his death nobody ever saw. It just kind of disappeared. And this had all the makings of a mob death where the mob took him down. He retired, I think, 1970. He had got knocked out by Mac Foster. Mac Foster was the guy that held the record for like 20-some years for the most consecutive first-round knockouts to start his career, or most consecutive knockouts. He was 24-0. He lost that. He lost his first fight to Jerry Quarry, which stopped that 24-0 streak. Ended up going on to lose to Ali in 15 rounds. But Foley retired in 70. And then in 72, I think it was in Chandler, Arizona, but I'm not sure. He was at a hotel, and for some reason at that hotel, he was found drowned in the pool. And there's never been an absolute decision on what happened there. And, I mean, this is still considered a cold case in Chandler, Arizona, and nobody has ever been able to figure out this. And the big thing about it is, I mean, you don't get anything telling you why he died. There's no autopsy, no nothing. The death was officially ruled to be an accident, but there's all kind of conspiracy theories. And I think that, like the death of Sonny Liston, I think Sonny Liston and Zora Foley were both knocked off by the mob. Because in both cases, with both deaths, neither one of them really makes sense. And, okay, here it is. I looked it up just for the heck of it so I could refresh my memory. But Foley suffered severe head injuries in a motel swimming pool while visiting a friend in Tucson, Arizona. And he died at a Tucson hospital within hours. The death was officially ruled to be accidental. But, like I said, there's no autopsy. Everything that would have had anything to do with that disappeared. So, to this day, nobody knows what happens.
Wow, that's unbelievable. And
I think Kurt Bavakwa might have had something to do with it, by the way, Bobby. And Biff Pokerova.
Well, the thing about what you're telling me is, a grown man, at 40 years old is not going to be doing anything stupid around a pool. He had 9 kids. He was a family man. I don't believe that he's a former athlete in good shape who never had any drug problems. I mean, this has all the makings of foul play.
Yeah, and I know,
I think you're on the right
there's a
track
great
there.
book you can find on Amazon, and it's called Zora Foley, The Distinguished Life and Mysterious Death of a Gentleman Boxer by Marshall Terrell. Very good book. He looks into it, and yeah, it's an interesting read, even if you don't know who Zora Foley is.
Yeah, that's something. Now, who wrote that book, Mike?
Marshall Terrell.
Marshall Terrell. See, that's a book that I'd be interested in reading. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Boxing, as I'm learning through you, I did not realize this, has so many stories, so many things attached to all these guys. It's just amazing. Amazing. And Ali, what struck me from your story, being a sports bettor and a psychological, analyzer, that I could see how that would really be a legitimate worry for him, because he didn't have that built-up anger and disrespect for the guy. And going into a fight, he probably was really comfortable when he did have those.
Yeah, he usually did, because for some reason, everybody would always give him something to latch on to. But with Foley, Foley was the first guy that he fought that called him by his Muslim name that he wanted to be called by.
Yeah.
And when you look at all of that, I mean, it was a rough fight for him. And on top of that, Zora Foley was a really good fighter. He just was probably 3 to 4 years past his prime, which you can't be fighting Ali when you're past your prime.
Right. He in 1963, he probably would have given Ali he'd have given Ali trouble. I think Ali probably still stops him.
he just would have had a little bit more difficulty doing it. Plus, I think Ali, if you watch that fight, took it easy on Foley. I mean, he gently knocked him out, if that's possible to believe.
Right.
So,
unlike what you've explained to me on some of the other bouts when he did not like his opponent at all and pummeled him, kept him in the ring longer so he could pummel him longer.
All right, Bobby.
Good stuff.
Anything else for today?
That. No, I think we're okay. I mean, there's today Purdue went down. Purdue went down to UCLA today in 1969. That was UCLA's 5th and 6th year. And also in 86, there's another quick boxing one. Maybe you'll have a couple comments on this, but Trevor Berbick in 86 beat Pinklin Thomas.
Yeah,
boxing.
That was actually a huge upset because Pinklin Thomas was a guy that everybody thought could be the next Larry Holmes. Pinklin Thomas's problem was he had some issues with the nose candy. And the other thing is this. When you watch the fight, I think Pinklin Thomas won, but they were trying to set Mike Tyson up to have as easy a road as he could to be the heavyweight champion. And the winner of this fight was going to fight against Mike Tyson. And I've interviewed Pinklin Thomas for like an hour and a half. Really interesting guy. He was a hell of a fighter. But he's pretty sure that there was some shady shit going down there, which tends to happen in boxing. Because the problem was Pinklin Thomas was kind of like Buster Douglas. Big guy, could hit hard, but he was a great boxer, could move. And that would have given Tyson problems. And it was proven out in 1987. Pinklin Thomas actually got a shot at Mike Tyson for the heavyweight championship. But the story was he had a torn rotator cuff. So he had to fight Mike Tyson one-handed. And when you watch the fight, the first 4 rounds, he's really competitive and probably won 2 or 3 of those first 4 rounds. But then just the lack of being able to punch with both arms killed him. And Tyson ended up stopping him in the 6th round. And I believe that was the fight right before Tyson and Spinks was announced. So it would have been interesting if Pinklin Thomas would have beaten Trevor Berbick, which I think he did. The fight was stolen from him because Berbick was tailor-made for Tyson. I mean, he was 3 or 4 years past his prime, and he was a slow, plodding guy, where Pinklin Thomas was a guy that can move side to side, stick to jab, and would have gave Tyson trouble. So, once again, Don King had something to do with that.
Don King. All right, Mike. Very good. Let's get those wins today. Let's get those 2 college wins. Let's get the heat going tonight. Rockets, 4-0. Parlay. Put that parlay in, Mike.
I did. I've done everything the way you told me to for today. So, all right, guys, make sure you check out our sponsor, MyBookie. You can go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the MyBookie.Ag banner at the top of the page, get up to $1,000 cash bonus back. You put in $2,000, you'll get $1,000 added to it, so you have $3,000 in the account. Make sure you check out the Sheridan Report at Sheridan Report on Twitter, the SheridanReport.com on the internet. With Bobby, you could go on and buy his sheet daily, the Sheridan Report, which is $10 a day or $50 a month. So make sure you go check that out also. For the Grueling Truth, tonight, right around midnight, 12:30 in the morning, we will have Survive and Advance with me and former 1981 national champion Steve Risley as we discuss the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament and look ahead to the next 2 days, which will be the second round, a round of 32. So make sure you check us out tonight live after the final game is played. But that's it for today. So we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody you can hear all of our shows on Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, and 100 other places. But wherever you hear sports podcasts, you will find the Grueling Truth. So for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpastor. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.